It's March 5th, 2024. Here's your host, Neil Magnuson.
Well, a little different introduction today. Welcome to the THC Show, everybody. Today on the show, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn join us for the 420 session and a little bit beyond. I don't think we're going to do too long a show today. We do have a few things to talk about. We'll talk a little bit about the healing wave and CSP, of course, because that's been the theme of the show for the last 280 or 228 episodes. 227, not counting today. There's a number of things going on. This is a show about THC, and that means truth, hope, and change. And we hope that by telling the truth, we can get the change that we're looking for. What I want to talk about today is criminal hypocrisy. As I have a puff on this most dangerous of cannabis joints. Criminal hypocrisy when it comes to legalization. Legalization in Canada is a farce. For anybody who doesn't understand that, who hasn't seen the show before and hasn't heard what we have to say about it. We here at Cannabis Culture, Pot TV, have been active advocates of real legalization since its inception. To overgrow the government. To legalize and regulate cannabis in ways that make sense. What we have here is a situation where the powers that be, the corporate influence on our government, influenced our government more than we did to legalize cannabis in their way. Legalizing cannabis in Canada is not what we've been advocating for, because we were all about getting rid of the high cost of cannabis and allowing for reasonable, proper access, especially for the people that are facing barriers, that need it every day, the medical people that need a good quality cannabis in some form or other to help them in their lives. Legalization doesn't address their needs at all, and those are mainly what we were interested in from our point of view for our fight for legalization. Legalization in Canada is nothing more than a hostile attempted takeover of the cannabis industry. It's for the rich and it's by the rich. It's a scheme where rich people get to have cannabis. And it doesn't matter that it costs them the same or more than what it cost during Prohibition, because they're rich people. It doesn't matter. Now they don't have to worry about their kids getting arrested or anything else, as long as those kids are not supplying cannabis outside of the cartel. But for those who are, and there's a lot of them, they are still being treated as criminals. They are still having millions of Canadian tax dollars wasted on trying to catch them and punish them, but not to end the unregulated supply of cannabis. That can't possibly be the goal. If that was the goal, then we wouldn't have this type of legalization. We'd have the type of legalization Trudeau talked about on his rise to power, where he specifically said that there would be nobody wanting to go to the unregulated marketplace because the quality cannabis at affordable prices would be available in dignified stores for people to go to. That didn't happen. The price of cannabis at the government stores is more than what the price of cannabis was during Prohibition. The potencies of the edibles are not anything close to what medical people need, nor anywhere close to what people need when they're trying to escape addiction using cannabis in the form of edibles to get through withdrawal. No, this type of legalization that we've been given satisfied everybody as far as Trudeau was concerned, but it didn't satisfy us. There are people in Canada who didn't have proper access to cannabis before that now feel like they do, and we should all just be happy with that. I'm not happy with that. And nor should you be happy with that. Because as I said, it was the sick people, the people that needed good quality cannabis at prices they could afford, that needed the legalization to happen. And they certainly don't have affordable cannabis or even cannabis of sufficient potency to assist them with what their serious needs are. Shame on the government for doing it this way, for making sure that all of those groups that have been making enormous amounts of tax dollars by immorally ruining people's lives get to continue to do that. Shame on them. This legalization model that's in place right here is all about the rich getting richer on the sale of cannabis to those that can afford it, and those that can't be damned. They see it as a way to cash in big time. When governments take over the regulation of things like that, it seldom ends up very good. They bastardize the product, and they're bastardizing cannabis as we speak. GMO cannabis is the future. Cannabis grown with all kinds of chemicals is their world. And they don't care, like I said, about the things that we care about. It's hypocrisy to a criminal extent. On this hand, you have cannabis that's legal to have. The government makes money off it, and you're good to go. On the other hand, we have this cannabis, which the implication over here is that this cannabis must be dangerous. That regulated cannabis and unregulated cannabis, well, the regulated cannabis must be the safe stuff, and the unregulated cannabis must be dangerous. Well, there ain't nothing dangerous about cannabis now other than some of the stuff that's coming out of the legal marketplace. The unregulated marketplace didn't have a problem with cannabis being dangerous. Billions of dollars worth of cannabis sold yearly just in this province alone, representing billions and billions of doses being consumed by people. No hospital wards full of people messed up by cannabis. No people suffering. No long list of dead people. Nothing. And that continues. The unregulated cannabis is not dangerous. We do not need the criminal law applied to keep people from accessing it. We do not need huge penalties for people that would dare to do so, because no harm is being caused. Regulations are what governments can do on things that have reason to be regulated. But it's a slippery slope. And it's an infringement on human rights. The right to be free. Freedom in Canada, by legal definition, is the right to do or not do whatever you want to do or don't want to do, unless you're harming somebody else. Nobody's being harmed here. The chaos and mayhem that was involved in the cannabis realm of things before so-called legalization was only chaotic because of the attempt to prohibit it. It was the enforcement of immoral laws and unjustified laws that caused all the mayhem. It was forcing it into the shadows. It was forcing it to be handled by large criminal organizations who didn't have the courts to fall back on to back up their will. They back up their stuff with violence. So we've got criminal gangs involved in violence, trying to outdo the authorities who are armed with tax dollars, and the mayhem and the chaos that followed. But meanwhile, cannabis itself doesn't cause people problems for the most part. There's millions of people and everybody's different, and I'm sure that there's ways to have unhealthy relationships with cannabis. But not to the point of needing the criminal law to deal with it, that's for sure. But now we have a situation where the criminal law is still in place, and not only being acted upon, but increased enforcement, increased tax dollars being used, increased penalties for those people who would dare defy the Trudeau cartel. This is criminal hypocrisy. Our masters, who are supposed to be our servants, say to us, Here's a beautiful store that you can walk into and you can purchase cannabis and you're not going to be a criminal. Or you can go see your cousin who's been growing for the last decade, but you're a criminal if you do that. And while you're there, we might break down the doors and steal all of his stuff. It's really, really disgusting that here we are at this point in history where we only pay lip service to the fact that we should be free and that governments should be public servants. This is abominable. Meanwhile, psychedelics are still not legal. People's desire to alter their consciousness, in many cases to escape depression, anxiety, pain, addiction, still criminalized. Thought crimes in the year 2024 are still going strong. You don't hurt people when you take psychedelic mushrooms or other psychedelics. Typically no one is harmed. Sometimes old ideas are destroyed. Sometimes more neural pathways are connected that bypass some of the pain and the trauma that people have suffered in their lives. But damage to society through the use of psychedelics isn't a thing. Hasn't happened and won't happen. But there is a lot of value in psychedelics for people. And the government has no business being in the business of deciding for individual free citizens whether they can or cannot alter their thoughts. It's ludicrous when you really think about it. So today was the day that this challenge was being addressed in the city of Vancouver. The city where all of the positive policy adjustments with respect to drugs have happened for the most part. This is the epicenter of where reason gets spoken to power and has the ability to win. And win we did. Dana Larson's case before the Board of Variance was successful. It was recommended that his license for his mushroom dispensary be reinstated. Right now, Dana and his lawyer and friends are gathered sipping champagne, because alcohol is a legal thing, to celebrate the progressive nature of what's happened here in Vancouver. It's not the end. It doesn't mean that everybody can go and get a license now, but it's a great precedent. It may well be appealed, which would be a bit of a strange thing. Elements of the city appealing decisions made by other elements of the city. So whatever the outcome is eventually, today is a great day. Today is a milestone day that could have gone the other way, but it didn't. Kudos to Dana for fighting the good fight. For Jack, this amazing activist lawyer that has done such great work so far in his still somewhat brief career. So much more to come from Jack. I'm so thrilled to know the man and see what we can do in really making Canada the epicenter of freedom and doing what's right with respect to people's rights to access plant medicines and psychedelics and those sorts of things. People deserve to be free. Freedom is a natural right. It gets taken away from you, not given to you. Nobody has the right to give it to you unless they've taken it away from you, and nobody has the right to take it away from you. For a brief time when you arrive here, your parents or guardians have the right to take away your freedom for a short period of time. But only up until that time when you as a human being are able to say to them, thank you, I appreciate what you're trying to do, probably love you, but I'm my own person now, and I'm going to make my own choices on things. I'm able now to do my own research, to make up my own mind, and live a free life. And that should be that for that. But instead, you arise from that familial situation to find yourself just a kid in somebody else's kindergarten, where they're making all kinds of rules that benefit their friends and aren't really designed to help you be a better person. This is not the freedom that we deserve. It is not. Let's see, had a little earthquake here for a moment.
Somebody flipped.
Special effects, compliments of my producer.
Yeah, and my flipped.
People have an inherent right to freedom. It's like air and water and love. It's a need. It is a necessity. Human beings are strange creatures with very complex minds, and freedom is a responsibility that we are all awarded just by being alive, and it's no one's right to take that away. I don't seem to have my alarm activated, so I didn't know that 419 had arrived, but we're not at 420 quite yet. We're moments away. But I guess that's it for my little rant about what legalization really is here in Canada. And it's not something that we should be accepting. It's something we need to continue to fight against, and until we win it. Because it's not just about the freedom to use cannabis, and it's not just the freedom to have low barrier access to mushrooms and cannabis and other psychedelics. It's about the very nature of freedom itself. This cuts right to the core of what it means to be free. Because if you're not free to simply ingest some smoke or some plant matter of a natural God-given plant because you think it might help you feel better or improve your day, then you are by far not free. And freedom does not exist in our world until we're free to access nature as free people. Well worth fighting for. And that brings us to 420. So, as you know, that means Glenn Wells is here, and he's going to join us for the 420 session.
I always do, and yeah.
You always do. So Dana gets a license, the very first license in the world.
I know. Well, is it in the world?
In the world. There's no other city has issued a license for a mushroom,
not California or anything
mushroom
like that?
Dispensary. That's out of the lips of Dana. So,
Wow,
he's never lied to me before. I don't think he's going to lie to me now.
No, I wouldn't say he was lying. Just like
well,
maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
well, what about Amsterdam? Amsterdam has
legal mushroom dispensaries.
I would believe so.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
Dana's caused a little controversy on the THC show already.
I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. Good afternoon, Douglas.
We'll get Dana on here to clarify that at some point.
Or you can just Google it.
We might do that as well. So that's what we know about that. A great day in the court for Dana, in the court of the city. Anyway, all this is a city initiative. On the other hand, the Cannabis Substitution Program is headed to court 3 weeks from today.
Yep.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow. 26th, 27th, 28th. And 28th.
That's
yes.
it.
If it goes to 3 days, right? They could say that you could go to
anything could happen
after on the first day, right?
They may adjourn it before we get there.
Yep.
On the day of or anytime during.
Yep.
It's really hard to know. Pat Warnicki, another win in the courts.
Yep.
Has. I guess I should light this.
I would light it. Yeah.
It is 420 after all.
Yep.
This is highly laden in concentrates because I don't.
Don't green yourself out now, okay? Just a little bit, right? I'll try some of that.
I've if you watched a couple of the previous shows, you'll see that there's some health issues going on here that is shaping the way that I'm dealing with ingesting cannabis smoke. So, we'll talk about those things later, perhaps.
Yeah.
But Pat Warnicki has had all charges now dropped.
Nice.
Against him.
Nice.
And he will be able to get his stuff back, and that includes a whole bunch of material that he was holding onto for patients that were seized
Wow, eh?
So it's a big win for Pat.
Big win for Dana.
Big win for Dana.
You're next.
We're next. Coming up in 3 weeks.
Comes in threes,
comes
right?
in threes.
That's it. So we're gonna.
And we don't really know what a win is in this court proceeding that we're about to enter into coming up here.
The win is that they allow you to have your license to open the store, and we don't have to use the RV anymore.
So this is just a preliminary hearing.
Yes, but that's our
This
win.
is not where that decision is likely or maybe even able to be made.
Yeah.
This is an exercise where, prior to being allowed to proceed in a real charter challenge, which is going to happen in July if things go that way, hard to say what's right and wrong here. But this is an opportunity that the Crown gets. You know, the Crown, that representative of the King that has his fingers muddling around in the stuff of us free Canadians over here still, as a charter member of the Commonwealth. You know that Britain, throughout history, has invaded all but 22 of 292 countries.
Wow, eh? Wow. And did you know the highest fuck guys are watching us from Alberta? Calgary, yeah, they're watching right there.
I thank you all for watching.
Oh, look at this. Now, see that, Walker? You get yourself instantly banned for that.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, these people banned from the stream. There we go. Boom.
So,
Boom.
This is a preliminary hearing coming up.
Yep.
The Crown will get their opportunity to explain why they think they have enough evidence to get a conviction on selling without a license. And at this point, it seems like we should be hoping that they succeed in that.
Yep.
Because otherwise we're back in limbo. So if the judge listens to what the Crown has to say, and we will be providing some of our side as well, although it's not anything like what it's going to be in the actual hearing from our point of view, where we have all kinds of witnesses and all kinds of things entered into evidence, videos, letters, all kinds of stuff. And you know, we think we get to win there, despite the fact that it is not going to be hard to prove that Health Canada did not give me a license to continue to do what we'd already been doing for over 3 years in providing people access to cannabis to help offset the overdose and overdose death crisis, this public health emergency that we responded to over 7 years ago now. So, Health Canada, 3.5 years into our run here with the Cannabis Substitution Program, decided that they needed to be able to have, or we needed to have a license from them to be able to do what we were doing. So we applied for a license. An application that should have really been bulletproof, because for 3.5 years we had been demonstrating every day that cannabis is helping these people. Through the course of the time before our application, we had hundreds of people that had been rescued from addiction by their testimony from the access to cannabis the way that we'd been providing it. No one had been harmed. No one had become addicted because of our efforts. People had been able to stop their dependency on the opioids and other street drugs through a great assist by cannabis through withdrawal, primarily in the form of edibles, and able to substitute the use of those harder substances after they've beaten their addiction. Excuse me. Because the drivers of addiction are still there, even once you stop taking the substance that you've been using to address those drivers. People still have suffered major trauma in their lives. People are dealing with chronic pain. People are dealing with chronic insomnia and many other things that drive people to the harder drugs. Cannabis, even by itself with a good strong flower, but even more able through the use of concentrates and edibles, are really able to help people with those drivers of addiction. So there's no reason for us not to get that license. And without it, we're stuck.
Thank you.
You know? We now have several other CSPs operating across Canada. They all deserve to be licensed and able to properly provide the needs of their neighborhood with respect to this public health emergency. In our view, Health Canada has been criminally negligent in not providing a license of some sort, an exemption, whatever it would take to allow for the low barrier accessing of cannabis in all of its potencies. Whatever that would take, that's what their job was to do. And in not doing it, we think they're criminal. And we'll see what the courts have to say about that. And probably, hopefully, we'll see what they say about that in July after the Crown proves that myself and our group were actually providing cannabis for people
and saving people
for sale without a license.
And you weren't harming anybody. You're saving people.
Well, we're here to do the opposite.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Right.
I mean, I think that there's some
crime is something that has to be detrimental against society. Right.
There needs to be damage done.
Yeah. So you're not doing any damage.
Other than criminal negligence and willful blindness.
Yeah.
There needs to be motive. There needs to be intent. A person has to have had and formed the knowledge that what they were about to do was going to cause damage and harm. And then they go ahead and do it, and then they get labeled as a criminal. If somebody is seriously injured and about to die, or possibly die, we all have a natural responsibility to try to help. Mm-hmm. It's incumbent on us as human beings, not as Canadians, not as any other country's citizens, just as human beings. You have a moral responsibility to do something about that. I always believed that here in Canada, if you were trying to save someone's life and it involved breaking laws, that was justified. I also believed that excuse me.
That's two
Sorry
ends with
that.
Glenn there, high as fuck, guys. You must be high.
And I also believe that here in Canada, if someone was to try to impede your ability to save that person's life, that was a criminal act.
That should be a criminal act, exactly.
That's
what they're trying to do. Well,
so
indirectly.
Well, so here's what we're trying to do. I had knowledge that cannabis could help people escape addiction during a public health emergency of overdose and death. I presented the idea of just making it as easily available as possible to get, or easy to access as possible, cannabis, especially the edibles, to the powers that be. There was no federal power that was at that time.
Yeah.
There was no licenses to apply for. There was no legalization in Canada. This is 7 years ago. But I did everything I could to go through the right channels to get some support and approval from our local government here.
And you were told that your piece of paper would be given to you in good time.
Well,
right?
at the federal level, we were told 3 months after our application that A, they were sorry for how long it had taken, and B, probably early January 3 years ago, they would have that license or exemption for us. Prior to that, almost a year prior to that, we had the city council pass a motion unanimously here in Vancouver to support that low barrier access to cannabis that we had been providing. We had met with the city. We were in agreement with the city that we would find a storefront so people didn't have to line up for hours during all kinds of sometimes inclement weather. Right. And then the city reneged on that and said, well, yeah, there's legalization now. You're going to have to apply to Health Canada. And we did. But on 2 occasions, we were told there was licenses pending. We continued to operate on that premise. Not that I probably would have quit even if there was no licenses pending. But the truth is, we were told there was licenses coming. And the truth is that we had been helping these people already for years, almost 4 years. And there's no way that as moral and ethical beings, we could have stopped helping those people. They had totally come to rely on us. There was no other source within reason for what it was that they needed to get for themselves. So it was up to us to continue to save these people's lives, which is exactly what's happening. Many of the people that escaped addiction because of our program would be dead right now.
Yep. Yep. And Devin shared with us, he says, impeding attempt to save a life. Every person is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term of not more than 10 years, or is guilty of an offense punishable or summarily conviction who prevents or impedes the attempts to prevent or impede any person who is attempting to save his own life, or without reasonable cause prevents or impedes or attempts to prevent or impede any person who is attempting to save the life of another person. So I've pointed 10 years in jail for just trying to stop somebody from saving somebody's life. Thank you, Devin.
But that's somebody.
Yeah.
That's not apparently some government.
Yeah.
So it's never been used against the government. Mm-hmm. And I'm told that I wouldn't be successful if I tried to go that route.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Why? Because the government doesn't kill people?
Because the government is allowed to do what they do.
Oh, jeez.
That they're allowed to do what they do.
Oh, wow.
And as it said there, without good reason. So it took the government 3.5 years to come up with what they think is a good reason to impede us from saving these people from the possibilities of death because of their addiction.
And their reason is they're not getting any tax money from it.
That's number one. They have 2 reasons.
2 reasons? Okay.
Number one, they don't get their cut.
Yeah.
They state it as if because we're using unregulated cannabis.
But it's not.
So that could imply that, there's some danger to the unregulated cannabis that we're providing. But we've demonstrated and proven for 7 years that we're not providing anybody with any dangerous cannabis.
And you're getting it from people who already have a Health Canada permit to grow already. So Health Canada has already gave them permission to grow the pot anyway. So why would they be giving them permission to grow deadly pot that's killing people, right? So
that's right.
Yeah,
so in most cases with what we're providing for people, they're coming from people that are licensed, but they're not considered LPs. The whole thing is hypocritical.
It is.
You can only use government regulated pot because of the safety factor as far as what they're trying to sell you. But you can grow your own. If 4 plants in most provinces, not all.
Just don't give it to anybody because it could kill them.
Well, you're good to go on using that. I don't see the government coming along and saying, you got to use these pesticides, you got to use these fertilizers, you got to do this, you got to do that to keep your weeds safe for you.
And your friends.
People just Google it.
Yeah.
And Johnny Burfello explains how to grow it. And they grow it. And they use it. And people dying of cannabis or being injured by cannabis or cannabis being dangerous is not a thing. It's never been a thing. Granted, with legalization, there has been numerous callbacks by different LPs for different reasons, and even a class action lawsuit against Organigram for people that were harmed by the pesticides and the fertilizers and the chemicals being used on the cannabis that they consumed. You see, people with serious medical issues, they're much more vulnerable. Mm-hmm. The average person, you are not going to be harmed by cannabis or those chemicals that are in there that shouldn't be there. Nobody's being significantly harmed by any of that.
And nobody has ever died from using cannabis. To this day.
Well, from toxic effects from too much cannabis.
Yeah.
They may have died because they did something stupid.
Maybe you think so?
Some people.
I don't know. We haven't heard about it, but
you don't hear about it. But no. It's the overdose factor with cannabis.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's some people who did some pretty stupid things using cannabis because they used more than they were used to, or they weren't used to it at all. And sometimes that can cause impairment. We're not here trying to say that you can't be impaired on cannabis, especially the edibles, especially the concentrates. You can green out on concentrates. That's not a healthy thing to do if you're driving down the road.
Nope.
Pretty sure you'd be considered impaired if you took a dab at the red light and then had an accident down the street because you were greening out. And I'm pretty sure some of that has happened. People being people or humans,
You think
whatever.
so?
Oh, I think so.
No.
If you can conceive it, it's probably happened.
Right.
I used to. Now, like I say, these are people who are using outside of their normal dose regimen, or people that aren't used to it at all. But I mean, I used to hot knife, tie stick, and hash, and all kinds of things from a log in between the two seats in my car while I was sitting at a red light.
Oh wow!
I could work the knives with one hand. I had the torch there, and I had a Coke bottle with the bottom knocked out.
That's good.
And the light, could pull up to a red light.
Couldn't do that with concentrates now, though.
Spark the torch. I probably could.
You think so?
Oh, what I did.
You might green out because of their concentrates, right? It's
well,
not
but they were
bud,
concentrates back then too.
right? No,
I greened out on tie stick.
but that's
not a concentrate.
Bud. That was a bud, right?
That was maybe it was a bud that had something sprayed on it.
Oh, maybe.
And
But
even bud,
tie stick was pretty
even
strong.
bud has
Lamb spread,
all
too.
the when you concentrate cannabis, what you're doing is you're eliminating the plant matter, but those cannabinoids that you've now concentrated by eliminating the plant matter are there when the plant matter is there. Mm-hmm. So if you're smoking a really potent bud, you're still smoking that stuff which would be considered concentrates if you remove the plant matter.
But with the concentrate, we take all the crystal off and concentrate it into one
Well, the crystal
form.
is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not the carbon.
No.
The carbon is what you remove, the plant matter.
Yeah.
The crystals are still there, and the tie stick was particularly potent. And to hot knife was a particularly powerful way to ingest it. And I did green out once on tie stick.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever really greened out on concentrates.
Yeah.
Nothing more
Except for
than
that first one that you did that day when we were doing the show, you were pretty close.
No, that's not greening out.
Okay.
Getting super high is not greening out.
All right.
Greening out is when you basically lose consciousness.
Yeah. Okay, when you do this.
I've had, and we've all of us cannabis users have probably had a head rush.
Yeah.
If you
Seen stars after a cough.
Yeah, you cough and then you get off, right? Yeah. And some of the methods of ingesting cannabis that we've used over the years were pretty potent too. There's the plunger, with the 2-liter bottle.
Do you remember wall tokes?
Wall tokes,
where you would push somebody against their chest while they're inhaling, and it would make them pass out when you let them go. Remember those? You pushed them up against the wall,
holding your breath after a big toke.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff like that.
Remember the ketchup bottles and the mustard bottles who used to pump out all the smoke, right?
there was electric fish tank air things
my
that
friend did that.
were used. There was
how about chillums?
Hair blowers.
Chillums,
with
it,
so between the method of ingestion and the potency of ingestion, you can green out on cannabis.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying you can't say that cannabis has not been involved in impairing people to the point where they ended up getting killed. And I don't think anybody's ever tried to say that because you don't know. For one thing, it's hard to know. Cannabis, in fact, has been implicated in lots of driving accidents because it's in a person's system, but it stays in a person's system, and you can't tell when they ingested it for weeks and weeks in some cases. And to say that the cannabis, and I think that cannabis synergizes things, and I know I found that out as a young person with alcohol, that ingesting cannabis and alcohol.
I get the spit. I don't do that anymore. I've done that twice in my life. And
I can't. I wouldn't say that cannabis has not been involved in fatalities and those sorts of things. But what we are aware of is that there's no toxic level of cannabis for a human being. Actually, I think the what's the ratio now? Am I losing my mind here?
I don't know. Are you?
Yeah.
You are getting old. Dementia could be coming on.
And because of the stupid health issues, I'm not eating properly yet. I've lost 35 pounds and not sleeping very well. So maybe I'm not capable of doing the show anymore. Because right now it's still escaping me.
That's
right. LD50.
There you go. LD50.
The LD50.
See, it came back to you. But
it's ridiculous that I wouldn't be able to, right off the top. Because I've known that for years.
You used to be.
I know it like I know the back of my own hand. Is that yours or mine? Anyways.
You're not.
But everything's been assigned an LD50 rating, lethal dose 50%. So if an average group of people ingest a certain amount of a certain thing and 50% of them die, that becomes its LD50 rating. and cannabis does have one 1,500 pounds in 10 minutes.
Okay, now you say everything has a LD50.
And it's everything you can ingest.
What about you and I? What's our LD50?
If I ate you,
Because you said everything, right?
I'd have to eat 1.5 of you. If I ate 1.5 of you, that's
cannibalism is LD50.
Cannibalism is 1.5. 1.5 Glens.
Well, you said everything, so I have to come up with something that.
No, but every fruit, every vegetable, everything that you could, every drug everything that you could ingest.
Yeah.
They've come up with this LD50 rating, and it's attainable for almost everything. By the way, you can eat too many tomatoes, you can eat too many potatoes, you can eat too many just about everything.
Oh wow!
And die from it. You know,
yeah, maybe you could.
A dozen raw potatoes will kill 50% of the average-sized adults that take a dozen raw potatoes within a period of time, like 10 minutes.
Your body might not even allow you to do that, right? Because your brain is going to say, hey, there's something wrong here. We're going to throw it up, right? You know, because you might not even be able to get to that point.
Alcohol has a fairly achievable LD50 rating where 50% of the people would die. And alcohol kills a few hundred people every year in British Columbia.
Wow. That
you don't get Bonnie Henry up there telling you all about.
No.
The government still continues to sell and glorify that stuff. Glorified at sporting events. It always was the basis for sporting events in the first place. They only have professional sports so they could sell alcohol. That's where what the sponsors of professional sports were about. They were all alcohol providers that sponsored professional sports to get people to buy their alcohol and come on out to the thing.
Cannabis sponsors.
Well, cannabis sponsors would be great.
and we had a story.
And don't get me going on gambling.
We had a story.
I'm really upset about
cannabis
gambling.
taxes are outdoing alcohol and wine taxes, right?
The revenue from the sale of cannabis is more than the combined sale of wine and tobacco.
Yeah, that's good. That's better.
Sure.
That's healthier for the people because we're not drinking as much.
Sure, but there's no justification for taxing cannabis.
No, but if we're going to get information
so the government making revenue off the sacred plant is a bit of blasphemy going on there. And again, criminal hypocrisy. The government doesn't tax you, and they shouldn't have the right to tax you for things that you're doing to save your life, get better, you know,
and save the money,
if you're sick,
health system, right?
These things are non-taxable.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be up to the provinces anyway, by the way. There's a whole other thing that's supposed to happen, separation between federal and provincial, that really is not being respected at all when it comes to cannabis. And that's something that I'm hoping that Jack and myself and the experts that we have and the stuff that we're going to put in will finally, once and for all, verify that cannabis is medicine.
Yeah.
Cannabis is being used medicinally by everyone who's using it. You can't help but use it medicinally because it's a medicinal supplement to your own endogenous cannabis system that we all have, whether we consume cannabis from the cannabis plant in any form or not.
Yeah, we get other ways too.
So, you know, it just gets so bloody ridiculous here. But to tax somebody, for the government to come along and say to you, before you go and purchase that medicinal herb there that you need for your health, we want a cut.
Yeah.
Oh, but sir, I only have enough to afford the medicine. I don't have enough to give you a cut. Well, then you can't have the medicine now, can you?
No. We'll just give you these pills
See,
instead.
this is not what the role of a public servant is supposed to be.
Yeah.
To say, oh, no. We've got to get our cut off of that medicine. If that means you can't afford it, well, so be it. And that's what Health Canada is saying to us when they say that they're not going to license us because we're not using a completely regulated supply. Regulation, as Glenn pointed out, is code for Trudeau getting his cut and the other levels of government getting their cut, because they're all in on this whole scam together, these different levels of government. They all get their cuts. These places get their cut on what we're providing for people here, and many of the people won't be able to get it. I'm gonna have to go back over with the people what's going on with me, but not right now.
Well, they know.
Not right now. You can watch a previous show to find out
Lost 2
why I
shows.
have to lean over every once in a while. I'm so sorry. But I'm still trying to soldier on here because there's a number of very important things to be talking about, and these are important times right now that we're living in. So we'll continue to do our best to bring you the message, whatever it is, on that given Tuesday with the THC show, but the shows may be cut a bit brief. I covered everything on my list except to say that time flies.
Yeah.
And every once in a while it jumps.
Yeah.
Once a year, in fact. Takes a break 6 months later to make up for it. But so far, in this silly world of ours where we calculate time and assign it values, still in this province, we're jumping ahead with the clocks. Coming up on Saturday, I think
I put that in the title,
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I put that in. The clocks go ahead 1 hour. Yeah.
So anybody who saw the title isn't surprised by what I'm saying.
Well, it's good that you're putting it out there, too.
Well, people don't need to know anymore, you know.
Well,
you used to need to know, but now, because the government has these surveillance...
If you live in Saskatchewan, you don't need to know because they don't do it.
The big corporations have developed this incredible plan to provide us all with handheld surveillance devices so that they can hear what we're saying and know what we're doing and know where we are.
If you're being bad.
At all times. Well, or if you're not buying their product, they want to know too, so they can shift your attitude. Or maybe it's political. So, Super Tuesday going on today down in the States. Nothing to do with Facebook going down, apparently. Just ignore that. There's nothing to see here, folks.
This morning, man, it was really bad.
Yeah, nothing to be seen here.
Jeez.
Facebook told me this morning that they had logged me out.
Yeah, me too.
And that I had to log back in. Well, I'm constantly logged in. I don't know my silly password. I thought it wouldn't.
It wouldn't let you.
It wouldn't let me.
No, I tried.
And so it said, I'm like, let me change my password. Send me a code. So I put the send me a code thing, and
no code.
No code came in.
No.
And then it's got a box for that. It says, didn't get a code?
Yeah.
Push this box. So click on the box.
Yeah.
Still don't get a code. I do it a third time.
You know where your code is?
Now a box pops up and it says, please wait several minutes after requesting a code for the code to come in.
Did you ask the code to come by text or email?
Text.
Oh. Yeah,
I thought about going email.
The email one is in your spam. It goes to your spam.
I see.
So that's where I get my code. Yes,
I see.
In your spam folder. It wouldn't do the text one for me either. So it wasn't just you. I tried 3 times to ask.
Yeah,
for the text
no. I found out later on when I got in that everybody's phone was down.
When I said via email, it will go. If I went into my email, it wasn't there. But if you went into spam, it was there. It goes into spam. So if found it. Back in, or else there'd be no show.
I turned my phone off and on.
Did you?
And it worked. That's what Adam told me to do.
Oh, really?
So try shutting your phone off.
Oh, I tried.
Or maybe it was George.
For me. I even thought my laptop wouldn't work.
So the sound of landlord in the studio.
Yeah, I even thanked him for joining us in the studio.
Was there something you did?
Yeah, right here. See, thank you for joining us in the studio.
Oh, I see.
Isn't that nice?
Was there anything you wanted to tell us? You got.
Come on over. Bring the stool. Oh. There was a stool.
Don't be too long. Cato's got the stool.
Cato's got the stool. Here, I'll give you a chair. Oh, this is the producer.
Well, I think of you, Neil, on your ailments, and I just pray for you when I have time.
We try not to talk.
Me?
We try not to talk about that on the show too much here.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm doing good. My heart's good.
That's good to hear.
My arm's good. The health is back to par.
Nice.
I'm kind of sad of different. I'm hearing different stories, but I ain't saying any names. But I don't know what's happening for 420. I know we all used to get along, and now everyone's having irreconcilable differences.
So, I'm not saying much about 420 yet.
Yeah.
There will be, it looks like 4 different 420s, and I'm not going to give the locations. This is about keeping off the city's radar. The city has proven themselves to be hostile against our efforts to protest these ridiculous laws and policies that they have. And so there's going to be a number of different 420s for people to go to. I'll be involved in one that I'll give you the location of probably the week before, but not before that. And we're just, we'll have more, you cut off the serpent's head and 4 more pop up, right? And we'll see what the city wants to do about that this time. So stay tuned for 420s near you. And I will likely have some comments on some of it, in the weeks to come. We've got a little ways to go yet. But rest assured there will be places to go, cannabis to be purchased, and protests to be done for 420 Vancouver.
I'm kind of sad about the government. I'm not happy because I heard that you can mail marijuana in the mail. It's legal.
You don't like your kidnappers?
Well,
you're not happy about being
I
kidnapped?
have a friend in Ottawa who's mailed me weed 3 times already, and I haven't got it yet.
So I mailed some cannabis to Mary. Mary, she was the baker here for a while.
Yeah.
She's in Manitoba.
Oh.
Manitoba, one of those provinces where they weren't going to let people grow for themselves. I'm not sure if that's been changed because of that court case or if that's still pending. But so I send this lovely envelope with some flowers to Mary, who is not feeling good at all times these days as we all get old here, and she really needed it. She goes to the post office to get it. They have it right there in Manitoba, in Souris. They won't give it to her. They say it smells horrible. Well, it could only smell beautiful, for one thing. But that's what they say there. And she can't have it. They're going to ship it back to me because my return address is on it. And you can't screw with the mail. That's people's personal stuff there. Despite what odor they might think was coming off of that, it's none of their bloody business. And so they denied an elderly disabled woman her medicine because they didn't like the smell. And their position is they didn't want to have their people handle it. So rather than hand it over to her and let her handle it from that point on, they're going to ship it back to BC and let all those people along the way handle it until it pops into my mail slot here.
That's more taxpayers' money wasted.
It is. And not only that, that parcel, although I sent it express, apparently stopped at 4 other places along the way, and none of those decided to reject it. It wasn't until it got to her hometown that their post office there decided to. And our post office here, these people love me. They couldn't believe it. It's just shocking. Shocking. I haven't got it yet. I'm going to be complaining to the government pretty soon about what happened to my package.
Well, I'm going to go on Global TV because I've had 3 mailed to me, and I heard by postal workers that it's legal to mail. And I haven't got 3 parcels from Ottawa at all, from our nation's capital. And so this has been since September, December, and now March. And I got no parcel.
There's a union rule with Canada Post that if it smells like weed, they don't have to deliver it because of the smell.
Yeah, that's in their policy.
That's why they provide smell-proof envelopes.
And I wrapped mine 3 times.
Envelopes don't stop the smell because I've had them still complain about it.
Yeah, no, my friend
I had it wrapped 3 times.
Yeah, you had it wrapped 3 times.
3 times. It was in 3 different envelopes, including the 3rd one was theirs at the post office that we stuck my double wrapped into and then sealed that.
Mine was vacuum sealed. How much better can they do?
Wow.
That's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
So this is our government of Canada, so you should write to your postal workers and say, hey, what's going on?
Don't go postal, though.
No. Yeah, don't go postal. Right? Go Pony Express.
I know it's aggravating and everything.
Go Pony Express. Have your Indian delivered to you.
I mean, they wonder why people go postal.
Right?
You know? You don't have to wonder very far. I mean, you try doing that to a guy who's not getting his booze or his cigarettes. See what happens then.
Right?
See how many of those go postal.
I was hearing you guys earlier about drinking.
Because it's in the bottle.
Drinking and smoking. Oh, yeah, the government loves them.
Yes,
marijuana,
they do, don't they, eh?
I've seen the marijuana, and boy, is it dry, the government weed.
Well, it's old.
It's old. It's got more stem than weed.
Packaged for a long time. Well, they got to put the stem and the seeds and stuff in there because they have to cap the potency, apparently. Okay, so I'm not telling the whole truth here, apparently. Don't know because you're not allowed into these facilities. They're like level 5 security. But some of my friends who have gone the legal route would, I'm sure, tell me if they were here that they're growing good weed and they're doing it right and they're trying to get good stuff out to people, and that's what they can do from their position. And I guess I appreciate that. And I've had Carol Gwilt from Weeds tell me that they're willing to even sacrifice the money that it takes because they have to buy the weed before they can test it. So a store can't test it at the wholesalers. There's no rep coming along that's got a bag of this particular strain for you to have a look at and see if you want to order that. Like for most products that are out there, they have to blindly order it from the cannabis liquor distribution branch, who won't refund their money even if they don't like it. And then they have to open it and try it, test it, and decide if they want to buy more.
What's the government testing it for? Who do they just say?
Microbes.
Well, the government, they're making the producers test it for microbes. I don't know if testing goes any farther than that, if they're looking for anything other than that. You would think they'd be looking for residue from pesticides and fertilizer rates or something like that. I don't really know. But I do know that, like I say, at Weeds, Carol, at her store, and I hope that's 2 now, and maybe there's more, will only stock stuff that passes her scrutiny, and she's finding some good stuff to put out to people. She's also got stuff on the lower end of cost, like $5 a gram. But, anybody wants to go to the store where you got 3 different choices of cannabis and you want to buy the cheap stuff? If you got enough money for the expensive stuff?
Potency's not going to be there even you buy the expensive stuff.
So, well, all I know is it's still a mess. And that I don't care about them. I only care about them caring about eliminating competition. We live in a world where the marketplace should be deciding through competition what the consumer wants by the consumer's own purchasing power. And there's none of that being allowed here. It's, get the hell out of the cannabis business, government. Don't need you there. Don't want you there. You're not doing any good there. You're not helping anybody but yourself and your friends there. Get out of the cannabis business. Be in the cannabis business about the same as you're in the corn on the cob business, or the cherry business, or any of these other fruits, vegetables, and herbs that farmers bring to the marketplace for people to decide if they want or not. Get the hell out of the cannabis business. You're only making things horrible. But as we've exposed on this show, they're not stupid. This isn't because they're just dumb and think that they should regulate it because it used to be dangerous. This is a bloody scam to profit as best they can off of one of nature's greatest gifts to us, supposedly free sovereign beings. It's enough to go postal about, but we're not doing it.
Says that when he's packing weed, he's also smoking it, so that's why the package smells like weed.
Well, it's just like the gas stations, like you're saying, competition. You don't want competition. But you know what Petro-Canada stands for? Pierre Elliott Trudeau rips off Canada.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Pierre Elliott Trudeau. So his son is taking his dad's footsteps and ripping off Canada and pocketing the money.
Well, they're both working for the same masters, and that ain't us.
Yeah.
And that ain't us.
I
used to, the first activism that I really did, I think, was I made up 4x8 plywood signs that said "Jail the gas conspirators."
Right.
Because that really bothered me,
And it was Pierre who brought out Petro, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Pierre.
Yeah.
He's, and I see that Brian Mulrooney just passed away.
Yes.
Another controversial Canadian figure.
Who?
Brian Mulrooney. He was the leader of the Conservatives.
Oh, he had that big face, just
Yes.
like.
Funeral for him.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, they're
His
That's why the
compliments
flags
are
are
both
half-mast.
criminal and amazing.
Yeah.
So, like all of these prime ministers in Canada and presidents in the United States, they are criminals and they do some amazing stuff. They usually, when they die, they don't get talked about the criminal acts that they did. But in any case, the gas conspirators. There's another good one. I mean, holy smokes, eh? That gets me going. Chlorine in drinking water got me going early on in life.
Oh, yeah.
But cannabis, that one really got me going. That one got me going to my boss and quitting. and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got to do something. And so far, 20 years later, here I am. This is what it is.
Well, you know, patience is a virtue, I heard when I was younger.
Right?
So this is, I sense this is your year to have a dispensary open.
I hope you're right. That's
Like
what we're going
you
for.
guys said, things come in threes. You and Glenn were, as I came in earlier. But yeah, things do come in threes, and I sense you don't have to be in the cold RV no more.
Wouldn't that be nice, eh?
You know?
Wouldn't that be nice to have the courts agree that people deserve to have the dignity of a safe interior space to be able to come and access what they seriously need for themselves? Let's hope the courts are not as corrupt as what they may be or may not be. We'll find out. That's the journey.
This 420, I'm selling hot dogs. I got a brand new electric barbecue.
Nice.
And I'm going to get a generator,
Nice.
and I think my stand is going to be Thornton Park. Even that's where I got pushed last year on Cannabis Day.
I see. Well, you might want to consider having some sauce that's infused
I got some.
to go along with that.
1 tablespoon THC is 300 milligrams.
There you go. You can just spread that on your bun, and there you go.
Why use the barbecue if you got power? Use an air fryer, and you can do a lot more.
Doesn't have power. How would you have
You
power?
need a generator.
Oh, I'm going to rent a generator, but I have a brand new barbecue.
Yeah.
Air fryer.
Then Glenn's.
I'm not that high tech like you are yet.
Well,
6
you got a
minutes.
generator. What are you
I
talking
like
about?
to sit over an open barbecue.
Okay.
So Glenn's point is valid. What do you want the generator for?
What? You got to plug in the electric barbecue.
Oh, it's an electric barbecue.
Yeah, it's not. I don't have a briquette one.
I see.
Actually, I do.
Well, thanks for dropping by and chatting with me
Good
for a
to
few
see you
minutes. I'm
guys,
glad you're
and
feeling better. That's great to see.
I feel great.
I'm headed down that path myself. I think I'm improving every day in my ability to swallow, and when I have energy, I feel good. So,
All right.
but
Good
I
to
sleep.
see you.
I do sleep a
Good to
lot.
see Glenn.
You as well.
Have a good day.
Have a great day. What's left of it? Carry on in peace, and you know what to do, eh, lad? Have as much fun as you can. So, yeah, that kind of brings us to just the wrap up on, what we're doing here. I mean, I try to somewhat summarize what the theme of the show has been all along here. And what it is a quest for low barrier access, low cost and no cost cannabis in all of its potency, community stores. That's what needs to happen here. That's what the government needs to allow, and in fact support, because of the good that this does in the community here. And we're on the track to make that happen, however that may be. We started over 7 years ago handing out care packs to hundreds of people for 3.5 years until the city said they would support that. And then we got a storefront, but then the city said, well, Health Canada has to support that. And so we're waiting for Health Canada to support that while we are no longer able to operate from the store, which is this space that I'm broadcasting from. But instead we're doing our services, the exact same thing that we would be doing from a store, except somewhat handcuffed in our ability to do it. But we're just outside the door there in an RV, and we've been there for well over 3 years. Well, not that particular RV. It's quite a journey we've been on here. This is the third incarnation, but we have never missed a day. We have never missed a day. We never missed a day that we were scheduled to be providing our service for the entire 7 years of our existence here. Never one time. For the first year, we were at Vandu every Saturday. 52 times. And after 52 times, with Vandu's permission, we moved to Sundays and Thursdays. We were there for another 2.5 years, twice a week. Never missed a time. We didn't miss a time due to the squelching heat, the blistering winds, the torrential rains, the freezing cold. Apparently the West Coast cold is a special kind of cold. Or the snow. We never missed a time. We didn't miss a time when the pandemic happened. In fact, we showed up trying to be respectful of what the government's narrative was, with gloves, masks, and maintaining social distances. We were told by Coastal Health, the government medical authority in the community here, that we were an essential service and that we needed to continue to provide our service during the pandemic. We then moved into the store. We then moved into the RV. We then got raided in the RV, coming up on 2 years ago. Nearly $1 million being spent of taxpayers' money to try to punish me and try to prevent me and our group from continuing to provide these life-saving services. It is insane and disgusting. We will be in court 3 weeks to see what the courts have to say about what's really right and wrong in this world. Let's all hope and pray that the courts are still able to do what's right. Because what's right is that people get low barrier, low cost, no cost access to cannabis in all of its forms and potencies. And what's wrong is to deny desperate, suffering human beings the relief that they're seeking. At this point, I'll tell you, it warms my heart something fierce to see what's happening with the CSP. People and groups across Canada are forming and figuring it out. Figuring out how in their neighborhood they can provide some easy access to these things and help people. There's several CSPs operating in Canada now. From Halifax, which was the original satellite chapter, going strong after 5 years, to Surrey, to Newton, to Langley. We were in London. We're now in Ottawa. There's a group in Sudbury that I don't have much communication with, so I don't know exactly what they're doing or who they are. But all of those other ones I mentioned are people that I endorse. And there's more coming. There's groups in the States that are contacting us about what we're doing here and how to do it there. So I don't think it's something that's stoppable at this point. I think we've passed the tipping point. We'll see. A big step is going to be in what happens in the courts with us, with Ted Smith. A lot of the past cases from Allard to Smith to Warnicky, Seaman, and Martin. Rest in peace, Jerry. We'll see what happens. It could be a very interesting year. Maybe landlord's right. Maybe this is the year where we get to not end on a cliffhanger, but have that celebration show where all the loose ends are tied up and Canada comes up with a legalization that makes sense for people and can transport that around the world instead of this nasty model of pay to play, fees all the way through, guaranteed revenue for government, and guaranteed no access for the people that need it the most. We can't let that happen. We can't be part of that as Canadians, as people who've been at the forefront since the beginning of the cannabis legalization movement. We need to make sure that Canada gets it right, and they do not have it right now. So the time to protest is coming. This should be a summer of discontent and a summer of getting what people need and deserve. Low barrier access to nature in all of its forms, from the mushrooms to the psychedelics, all the different plants, cacti, the things that are put here for us, that are there, that we've grown up with and evolved with, that we should be able to access if it works for us on an individual basis, and governments be damned and stay the hell out of the way. We're going to go outside just for a few minutes and see what's going on out there, as we normally do, and then I'm going to have Well, the weekly THC weather report is damn cold here.
It's cold, yeah.
That is a cold wind coming through. I don't care what they say back east. I know they might not find that, but I actually have people from Northern Ontario coming here and telling me that the cold here is a different cold than the cold back east, and that it is damn cold here sometimes. And there we go with the heater.
Yep, there we go. It's going.
How you doing, Adam?
I come from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, where it's probably minus 30 right now. But I tell you, minus 10, minus 5 out here in rain, you'll never be more cold.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
If you get damp especially.
Oh, there's nothing that can heal that unless you get in the shower.
And this is a cold wind coming up.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
didn't
care what
even do my
anybody says.
jacket. So.
Thank you. Make that clarification from...
Well, we're going to see him in the van, yeah.
Speaking of Sault Ste. Marie, a shout out and a hello to Rob Waddell.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your amazing work over the years. I wish you all the best with your health issues as well. And really sorry to see that you had to close down the store. But such great work and work that can never be undone. You know, really, I think that another one of the pioneers that set the path on its way where, like I say, we passed the tipping point. We will eventually get the legalization that we deserve here, but it's because of people like Rob and Ted Smith and so many others. Give a shout out to the firemen here. And, you know, and so here we are. This is the RV, as I said. And, well,
Let's go in.
try not to show faces
Yeah,
here.
no, just
out of
showing the
respect
wall.
for people's
Yeah.
privacy. Welcome to our second home, which we really wish was the second home. In reality, it's kind of the first home because we're still not able to be in our first home.
Should be the second.
My lips are frozen now. I can't speak. So this is it. You know, it's our humble abode for 3 years and 4 months now, and we do our best under cramped circumstances. And you know, it's a testament to the character of the people working here that they're able to not murder each other.
I hear that.
Ron Adam said hi.
Yeah.
Ron McNabb.
Oh, geez, what's up?
Yeah.
All right.
Dexter and Adam.
My name is Dexter. You know?
Yeah. My name is Dexter.
Our faithful.
I don't know.
Do I usually forget my name?
I don't know.
Oh, there's more than one name.
That's true.
It's true.
That's true.
But in any case, like I say, this has not been easy. It's cold. It's cold coming just from the shop to here. In the morning, we have to carry all the supplies here because we don't leave anything in the RV. It gets broken into regularly. And so, you know, there's a whole bunch of encumbrances here. Not to mention the lack of ability to add to our program more people because we're operating out of small confined spaces and our limits are there. We should have government support, government funding. We should be able to have a business that is able to support what we're doing here and providing so much free stuff to people. The majority of the people that come to the window are not here to purchase anything. They're here to get their free joint, their free edible, or their CSP pack.
Yep.
And we have to sell things to be able to support that. There's no other way to do it unless we had government funding. So maybe if the government doesn't want us to sell cannabis to people, they should just give us enough money to just give it away to everybody.
Or just let it
But
do
even that doesn't work because this situation is complicated. And this overdose crisis that's going on here, this public health emergency,
How you doing?
is touching all the demographics in Canada of people because all the demographics of people in Canada are susceptible to injury and doctors putting them on opioids that they don't successfully get off of.
Let's see here. So
And they end up dependent on opioids or other street drugs that can help them with their issues. It gets to the point where they'll take anything to stave off the withdrawal. And those people are secret. They don't let anybody know what's going on with them. That's why people are dying alone. That's why they're dying in all walks of life by themselves because they can't let anybody know what's going on with them. They're embarrassed and ashamed, and in many cases they're going to be criminalized, they're going to lose their jobs, they're going to lose respect in their communities and society.
Have a good day.
So those people need to have discreet, low barrier access. They're not going to come forward and get into a lineup to get something for free to help them with their addiction because the government's going to allow it. They are not going to identify themselves. They need to have a low barrier community cannabis store to walk into discreetly and get what they need for themselves and walk out. So we're demonstrating these things every day.
Yeah.
It should have been enough years ago.
I was listening.
It better be enough when we go to court. Support us there. This is a good time to get involved with this movement for actual legalization of nature's greatest gift to humanity. Write a letter to whoever authority that you deem to be appropriate.
Sorry.
Hey, Santa Claus could help.
His postal code is OHOOHO.
Write him a letter. Tell him what's going on. People want edibles. Adults want edibles for Christmas. Hey, in our local rock and roll station that's been around for over 20 years, probably 30 years, maybe 40 now, I'm not even sure. But they're having a little contest of some sort. Apparently it's World Sleep Day coming up here before long. And I don't know anything about that, but what I caught was halfway through a conversation where a woman had just won her spot in the pool of people that get to win the grand prize of whatever it is. You get that big bed to sleep in or something, I don't know. But it's World Sleep Day, and she won by submitting a letter where she said that she's an insomniac who lately has been able to get a good night's sleep due to cannabis edibles.
Oh, nice!
And that got her a win. And it gets her a win with me as well.
Right.
And people need to know that.
That's
If
great.
you're having trouble sleeping, certainly try edibles. Start low and go slow.
Yeah,
But
that's it.
try edibles.
And Gazer is here saying that the New Zealand police tried to take his DNA because he's been importing seeds to New Zealand. They tried to take his DNA. Wow, eh?
Crazy what's going on there. And
In the world, it's crazy. Yeah.
So we're here still trying to sort it all out for you other people around the world.
Yep.
Hopefully Canada still can be the beacon of freedom and reasonableness when it comes to cannabis policy and
We'll
drug
try.
policy.
Gotta get rid of Trudeau first.
We're not there yet. We got an idiot in the government that is bending to the will of the corporations. And so, we're fighting it here and we're hopefully going to win. We'll see what the courts say. Thank you, everybody, for watching the show. I hope you share it out all over the place because it is good information that people need to know. I believe that strongly enough that I'm still here trying to present it to you, even though my capacity to do so is becoming somewhat limited. So, be good to yourself. Be kind to everybody else. Be kind to the people that need it the most. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know how they became who they are. But be kind to them, because when you're being kind to them, you're being kind to yourself. We live in an echo chamber. That's just the way it is. And most importantly, because life is short. It's way too short, and it's way too serious to take too serious. So every day, moment by moment, because that's all you have is this moment and how you feel this moment. Have as much fun as you can. And I'll see you next week.
Should all say it at the same time to be really